Greetings, welcome to this tutorial that continues on with the drawing. The first thing we're going to take a look at is the Shapes tool and the Line tool and how those two work to create parts of your drawing. Now, last tutorial we took a look at the pencil and the brush tool, and there's the color for the brush and there's the color for the pencil. And it's better to think of them as the outline tool and the fill tool because that's how they work together. So with these two tools, the rectangle tool has both the line color and a fill color, and the line tool is just the line or the stroke. Now with the pencil tool, we can draw lines and it can make them fairly straight, but we can also hold the shift button down and then draw perfectly straight lines, but only horizontally or vertically. Can't go at any angle. That's okay because we have the line tool. And the line tool will actually allow you to draw a line in any direction and it'll make it perfectly straight. I can connect them. And one of the nice features of the line tool is it has this snap to objects tool. So when I'm trying to connect these two lines, what will happen is that little circle will just kind of jump along that line there and connect, so I can complete and close the shape. So you can see when I click on my shape with the white arrow, which we'll get to a little bit later on, that's the actual line that it's drawn. And what happens is whatever you do to draw a line, whether it's the pencil tool or the line tool or the shapes tool and so on, it will do what's called stroke the line. This is the actual path, they call it, and these are anchor points, and then the color around it is what you actually see. But what you're connecting to when you draw lines that touch each other is that path there. And we can change this stroke here by going to our Properties palette. So I'm going to go to the Properties palette here, go to my Line tool, and I can adjust the thickness of the line. So it's thicker than there, but you can see there's that path that I drew, and then it strokes around it with the color. I can also adjust the end of the line. It's got this feature called cap. So if I do none, it'll just be a square end. If I do square, essentially the same thing. And of course I have the rounded one that will look like that. Okay, I can also adjust here the style of line. So I've got dashed, dotted, ragged, stippled, and so on. And that will just of course change the way that path, that pink line, is colored in once I let go. So that's stippled, and of course there are many other ones. Now you'll notice that I can click on my Properties palette and it'll temporarily come out. If I want to see the whole thing all the time, I can click on this double arrow here so I can see all the features that are possible when drawing a line. So that gives me dashed. Now if it's a really thick line, then the dash won't really show up, but if I make it thinner with my stroke, then of course I'm going to have a dashed line. So it actually needs to be a fairly thin line for any sort of dash to appear. Okay, and then this of course is where I can change the color of the line that I drew. You can also change it here on your toolbar. So that's the line tool. Now I'm just gonna delete everything by selecting it all, and I'm gonna hit delete on my keyboard. And we're going to take a look at the rectangle tool. And I can turn the snap on and off so I can connect them nicely and perfectly to each other. So I'm going to turn it off this time. I don't need it. It's just an on-off switch. And I'm going to draw a rectangle. So here's my stroke color and here's my fill color. So the stroke is still dashed because that's what I set it to before. If I want it solid, I can change that to solid. I can stroke the line as well, and I can then draw my shape. Now you'll notice the edges here are at a slant, basically a 45-degree angle. That's called a bevel. So I have this join here. I have three options: miter, round, and join. So bevel was the setting I had it on, and that cuts a 45-degree corner off the edge or the corner of my shape, whatever it is. If I do round, it will round it, obviously, and miter will be just like that, a square shape, right? So the cap applies to the line when I have the line tool, and the join, generally speaking, applies to the rectangular shape that I'm drawing. Now I'm just going to delete that as well. I have a few other tools under here. I have an oval tool, which allows me to draw circles and ovals. And then I have this polystar tool, and there's two different options here. I have a star that I can draw, and under options I have this palette, and that's where I can choose star, and I can choose to increase the number of points and the size of the point. So maybe I'll make that 0.3, and then when I draw it I'll get something like that. Now my stroke is fairly high, so I can adjust that like I did the other one as well. And I can create all sorts of variety of different shapes of stars. The other one is a polygon. So I can choose polygon and have an 8-sided figure. I can change that to 12, 13, whatever it is I want, and it will give me that many sides. So you have the ability to adjust the number of sides on that shape to basically create whatever you want. So that's the line tool and the polystar tool, the oval tool and the rectangle tool. Now we're going to take a look at the rectangle primitive tool, and there's an oval one as well. They both essentially work the same way. So I'll just get rid of these shapes, and when I'm on the primitive one, it kind of looks like the same thing, but what it gives me in this properties palette, and you can adjust the size of the palette by dragging these up and down. So if I'm missing some shapes there, or some options there, I can drag it down so I can view them. So what this does is it creates a rectangle just like the other one, but allows you to adjust it after you drew it fairly easily. So I can change the edges here, so I can make the hockey rink, and I can make it perfect square if I put this on 0, and then I can do a concave edge to it and create it a slightly different shape. So it just depends on what you want there. I can change the stroke, so all these features here that were adjustable I can change very easily because I've already because I drew it in the primitive tool, which essentially means that no, I can't do that. Let's go back to the line here. So if I want it square, round, oh, that's for the line tool, sorry. If I want it beveled, I can change it. Mitered and round. So you have those options there. And with the miter, you have this slider here. You can change the options on that as well. So that's the primitive tool, just allows you to adjust it. I can go up here and I can move the position of it around with these XYs. And the way Adobe works is you just put your mouse over it and you get this hand with the arrow pointing in either direction. So I can adjust the width and height of it as well. And I can adjust the XY coordinates of it to place it exactly where I want it. Okay, and then you just follow your rulers here. So right now I'm at 195, So it goes by the top left corner, and 82. And then if I adjust it, you can see that I'm now at close to 200, so 191 at this left corner here. So those are your line tools and your rectangular tools. Both of them have the magnetic option, and of course there's a few different options here for shapes that you can draw. And then you have the primitive tool, which allows you to adjust after you drew it. So we'll stop there. Next we're going to take a look at some of the arrow tools, the rotate tool, the lasso tool, and then we have the pen and the text tool left to take a look at.